Hi guys, welcome back to Too Cool for Middle School. I was looking at some of my old videos last night and I realized that it's been a long time since I've done a Q&A. And I like to do these every so often just to respond directly to your questions. And before we get started, I just wanted to let you know about a new feature on my channel. It's not a new feature on YouTube, but I had just never taken advantage of the playlists before. And I think it's especially useful on my channel since I do so many different things. And I have almost 250 videos on my channel at this point. It's been like 4 years since I started. So I decided to kind of organize videos into different playlists for you so that you can find what you need since I'm a little bit all over the place. We've got the windows open right now because it's such a gorgeous day outside and my husband and I are working in the office and we just want some fresh air, so there might be a little bit of background noise. So there are always liked videos. Anytime I like a video, it just adds it to a playlist so you can see what I'm watching if you're ever interested. I have a playlist on grad school and books, so if you're ever interested in that topic in particular, go to that playlist. I have one for pregnancy and parenthood. I have one for style and beauty, and then I made one specifically for like collaborations that I've done with other YouTubers and like tag videos. I've got one for planner videos. A lot of people ask about those. I put all of my vlogs into one playlist. I don't do a ton of vlogging. I just do mostly like sit down videos like this, but I've got 18 vlogs up there. I made a specific playlist for all of my monthly favorites videos and unboxings. And side note, I think that my goal for my YouTube channel this year is going to be to do a monthly favorites video at the end of every single month. Usually I'm just kind of hit or miss with it, but I think I'm going to do one every month. And in those videos, I will show you also like what I decided to purchase for the month, since I'm trying to only buy one article of clothing every month. And I love favorites videos. It's just a cool format to talk about what you're liking at the moment. And then my biggest playlist that has 59 videos is teacher tips and encouragement. So anything related to teaching or how-to videos or curriculum videos or anything like that is in that playlist. And then I think there are still a bunch of videos that just like ended up without a home. So for more elaboration on some of these questions, I might send you over to a playlist or to a video. So thank you so much for all your questions. I've got them on Instagram right here. I'm just gonna take them straight from Instagram. There are a little over 70 questions, so I'm not gonna answer them all in the sake of time, and I'll try to be concise. That is not my strong suit, but I'm gonna try. Ooh, let's start with the first question asked that I get asked all the time, and that is when we're gonna have baby number 2. And actually yesterday, as I was going through like pregnancy videos and parenting videos and stuff and seeing like little baby Jensen, I was like, oh my gosh, I want another one so bad. But then I remember how much his daycare costs. So we have to wait until he gets a little bit older and a little bit cheaper, like when they are potty trained and when they're a little older and have like a lower ratio of teachers to babies, then things get a little bit cheaper. But oh my goodness, childcare plus like maternity leave makes you really think twice about having another one, but we would love to when those things line up. The next question is, what got you interested in learning more about fair trade clothing? And really the reason that I got more into it was because of one of my students last year. So I was telling them about Dressember and how modern day slavery still exists, and most of modern day slavery is in the form of sex trafficking, but I didn't really want to frame it that way for my 6th graders. And there is still a ton of like labor abuses and trafficking for labor, and so I just explained it to them through the lens of like child labor. And so I told them that I'd be wearing a dress every day to protest child labor, and I had this student raise her hand and she was like, okay, so you are going to wear a bunch of dresses made by a bunch of children in sweatshops in order to protest children in sweatshops. And my jaw dropped. I was like, yeah. And since I'd been, focusing so much on like the sex trafficking side of it, that hadn't even occurred to me. But as soon as that idea was in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm gonna need to buy ethically made clothing from here on out. And I think someone in another question asked about resources and where to shop and where to learn more about this. And so the best resource that I have for you is a documentary called The True Cost, and it just talks about how much clothing actually costs. So if you are getting cheap clothing, it's because somebody is not being paid a living wage to make it. It also talks about the effect of our fast fashion culture on the environment and on humans, and it's just an amazing documentary, so I would for sure suggest watching that first. And then on my Instagram you can see a lot of companies that I tag that are fair trade companies whenever I wear their clothing. I also have blog posts dedicated to quite a few ethical clothing brands, so I can link all of that stuff below. Off the top of my head, like Pan Clothing is great, Crochet Kids, Elegant Tees, All Beyond Fit, People Tree, Stella McCartney I've never actually purchased from, but she does an ethical clothing line. Eileen Fisher, that's another one I haven't purchased from yet, but I want to. Patagonia is great. And what I've done in the past year as I've been like learning about this, because I love fashion. I love looking at fashion posts. I love clothing. So what I did for myself was I unfollowed on Instagram all of the brands that I was following that aren't ethical. And the ones that, you know, jump to the top of the list are like Gap, Old Navy, Banana Republic, H&M, Forever 21, Zara, all of those fast fashion companies. If they've got something new every single time you walk in, they're probably a fast fashion company, and they probably exploit people in order to get that kind of turnover. So I unfollowed all of those accounts, and then I follow a ton of ethical brands now. So that's just what I see. That's like what I'm intaking. And I love to see people style ethical clothes beautifully, and that's something that I try to do. Over on my blog, I do a little bit more of that. So I'm trying to just kind of get the word out there about ethical clothing. So start there. Instagram's great. Blogs are great. Pinterest even. I just typed in fair trade clothing on Pinterest and got a bunch of information. So the information is certainly out there if you'd like to educate yourself. The next question is, what would you want to be doing if you were not teaching? So in like a dream world, I would love to be a singer, a performer of some kind. So every so often I'll just get on these like YouTube rabbit holes where I'll watch a ton of interviews with like the Hamilton cast and the Dear Evan Hansen cast. I did it last night. I watched a bunch. PBS, like Masterpiece, does these amazing like documentaries of behind the scenes of Hamilton and In the Heights. And when I see like just the life that these actors and singers and dancers live, oh my goodness, I would have loved for my life to have gone that way. I know it's so much sacrifice and so much luck and so many years of dedicating to that. So if, you know, in like a dream world, I would have loved to do that. But when I was in like 9th grade, I took, you know, one of those tests that tells you what career you should have when you're older, and mine said journalist, and I could definitely see myself doing that. Like if for some reason I wasn't able to teach anymore, I would use my history knowledge and my writing knowledge, and I would love to go write for publications and newspapers. I saw the Post this morning, and that renewed my desire to do things like that. But the great thing is that, you know, with blogs and everything on the internet now, you can really write whenever you want. You can publish yourself, you just don't get paid. The next question is, what tips would you share with a teacher taking a position at a new school and new content area mid-school year? So I don't know about the mid-school year part, but I do have an entire video on this, and I think it's in the collaboration section because I did it along with Bridget from the Lettered Classroom, and we both talked about taking on new positions at a new school. So I will refer you to that. How do you keep all your school things, paperwork, etc. organized? I think that I show this in my back to school vlog, so you can always check that out. But what I do for like assignments is I just have these, they're like magazine holders. I got them from IKEA, and they're color coded by like which class it is, whether it's 6th grade history, 6th grade English, or 8th grade English. And then I have the period numbers on them also, and that's where kids turn things in. And then I have my TA put assignments in alphabetical order so that it's faster for me to grade them and put them into the computer. And then after they're graded, I have another thing from IKEA. It's one of those like organizers. I have a picture of it on my Instagram and in that vlog, but I put them in there to like be returned to students. And now that we do so much with Google Classroom, a lot of it is on Google Classroom as well, and there's less paperwork, but the only problem with that is that my mind hasn't quite made the switch, and sometimes I forget to grade things when I can't like physically see it. So I'm working on that. I'm kind of like straddling the two worlds, like paperless and still paper right now. The next question is advice for work-life balance. It seems like you work hard for your classes but are always able to make time for your personal activities. I think that I do. I just completely separate everything. When I'm at school, I am at school, and I just focus on that. I rarely, like get anything done for my personal life while I'm at school. And then I never bring work home just because I know it's not going to get done, because I've got Jensen to take care of and like dinner to make and maybe grocery shopping to do, maybe some editing for YouTube videos or things like that. So I just know that I'm not going to get it done at home as much as I would like to. So I just keep everything completely separate. The next question is, how did you and your husband meet? And then someone added, and how old were you when you met and when you got married? My husband and I met at church at Free Chapel, Orange County, which is where we still go. He was the first person I met the first time I walked in there. So we always tell people, if you're looking for somebody, we had really good luck there. And I was 21 at the time, and at first we were just friends. Like, I wasn't all that interested. I kind of was, but it took a little while. We were like friends and kind of dating for about 6 months before we like officially, were official. And then we got married when I was 23. It was almost exactly 2 years after we met. And that was almost 10 years ago, I guess, because, oh my gosh, I'm 31. So yeah, in June, that will be 10 years since we've met, and we've been married for 7. And I'm definitely so grateful that I met him when I did, and that I get to be married to him for the rest of my life. He's great. I know he's not on here much because he hates social media. He doesn't really want his business out there, but I'll sing his praises a little bit. Another question is, how do you unwind after school? I don't know that I ever unwind. I think I'm kind of always wound. I'm kind of always still trying to get things done around the house. But after school, I definitely am like on Instagram, like talking with people. I feel like especially lately, Instagram's really been a place where I unwind. Like, I like to do stories. I don't vlog all that much, but doing stories is kind of like my version of vlogging. And I like to just check in with you guys and talk to you guys and answer questions. And there are people that I feel like are my friends on Instagram that I talk to, and that's kind of nice to talk to other teachers and just kind of have that sense of community. So that helps me unwind. Someone asked about issues with fair trade when parents are not on board due to cost, but it's not something that I really do with my students. It's just a personal pledge that I've made for myself. Although I do have a human rights club that meets in my classroom once a week. Those kids are amazing. They were inspired by the December movement, and they started a human rights club, and they are going to get like club t-shirts, and they're going to do it through Pan Clothing, so that they're buying fair trade shirts. They've raised the money themselves, and then they like applied for some grants, so I think they have enough money to cover it, because it is more expensive than doing it through like custom ink or whatever. Another question is, have you ever taught ELD? If so, what resources were helpful? And I do have 2 or 3 videos about teaching ELD, so I will refer you to the playlist. This is a good question. How does your faith influence your teaching? I find so much wisdom from the Bible. I definitely believe that you should not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is useful for lifting others up according to their needs. I believe that we should remain above reproach. I believe that we should love everyone as our neighbor. I believe that we should seek wise counsel, and that we should do everything as unto the Lord without complaining. So there are so many verses that just come to mind throughout my day, and I'm lucky that I've had so much scripture poured into me that those things just kind of come naturally. Another question is, what have you learned about classroom management in regards to Defiant students, or how to keep your class running as smoothly as possible? I have an old video about like the power struggle, and I made that video A, when I was pregnant, and B, when I was working at a school with a really different population. And even though I still stand by everything there, like I have a different population now that just is less defiant, so I am not dealing with that on a daily basis as much. but I definitely learned that usually kids aren't being defiant to you, like you represent authority or you represent like their parents or people telling them what to do. And so you definitely can't take it personally. You can't engage. You can't get in like an argument with a 13-year-old because you don't want to give away your power. They're trying to trick you into saying something that you shouldn't. They can, you know, say things that they shouldn't all day long, and there really aren't many consequences. But as soon as you do, you could face consequences for it. So it's not worth like lowering yourself to their level ever. You always just want to like hold that upper hand and not engage in a argument with the student. So this is a good one. You can have dinner with any 5 people from any point in history, dead or still living. Who would they be and why? 3 jump to mind instantly, so I'll do 3. Number 1 is Rothschild Francis. That is my husband's great-grandfather, and he was this amazing civil rights leader in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I wrote my master's thesis about him, and I feel like I know him as a person because I've read so much of his writing, and I've written so much about him, and if I had a chance to somehow meet him, I would have so many questions, and that would be so amazing. Another person I would love to meet is Lin-Manuel Miranda and just talk to him about Hamilton, and I love his positivity and everything that he puts out into the world. And then of course, Mariah Carey. If I could just spend a day with Mariah Carey, I would be in heaven. That would be amazing. I would want to take a voice lesson from her for sure. Another question is, what are your best strategies and activities you use when teaching a whole class novel? I feel like I would be talking for too long if I explained too much of it, but I've got a really old video, like one of my first videos about how to teach Farewell to Manzanar, and I go really in depth into it there. So check that out, and the resource from, she's now Donut Lovin' Teacher. I think she used to be like Miss Teacher LA, but you can get that resource on Teachers Pay Teachers. That was one of the first things I bought on Teachers Pay Teachers, and I reached out to her because I just thought it was amazing, and I've actually met her in real life, and I've gone to her classroom. We're like actual friends now, so I love that resource. Let's see, best resources for ELA lessons that include diversity. I would say Vocabulary and Newsella. How is your communication with families? Have you ever had a disagreement or tough situation with a parent, and if so, how did you handle it? Oh, I totally have. I just try to keep in mind that we're both probably trying to do the best thing for the student, and a lot of times they can see like the student's needs but not your whole classroom's needs, and you can see the whole classroom's needs but maybe not that one student as clearly as the parent. And so you have to find a way to balance those two needs. A student can't always have everything that they want. Like they can't talk whenever they feel like it and like disrupt the class, or you know, maybe always sit where they want to, or like never work with people if they don't want to, unless they have some kind of an IEP or 504 or whatever. But if it's just like personal preference, you have to balance those things with the needs of the entire classroom and find a way to communicate with the parent and let them know that you are seeking their help about how to help their child, and that you're also trying to convey what needs to occur in your classroom for everybody to learn. This is a good one. How did you manage getting a master's degree while also working your first year? I'm nervous to do that myself and wanted to know if you have any tips for when the time comes. My master's degree actually took 5 years, so I was doing my master's through my first 4 years of teaching, and I was finishing it up while I was pregnant. And I actually walked at my master's graduation ceremony a week before I had Jensen, so it was crazy. And I have a bunch of videos in that grad school section all about that, and I think in all of them I promise that I'm going to do like a whole video about my master's thesis just by itself, so I still need to do that, and I will. Just got to get around to it. Let's just do a couple more here. Did you ever feel overwhelmed when you were starting out in your career? Yes, and I still feel overwhelmed all the time. And I read a quote a long time ago that said it never gets easier, but you get better. And I think that's really true. What does your filming setup look like for home, traveling, and at school? Do you use the same camera for each, or your phone when you're out of the home? Do you use lighting or have a camera stand? Yeah, so like this right now, I've got a stand and I have a Canon Rebel T5i. I really like this camera. I like filming on it. I don't have enough room for any lights. I just have windows right here, so I just film during the daytime when it's light outside. But this camera is a little too large to like do any kind of vlogging with. I think I have my vlogging camera in here. Yeah, this is my vlogging camera. It's a Canon G9X. I like it for taking pictures, but I don't love it really for vlogging because it doesn't have a flip out screen. So like when I'm vlogging, I can't tell if I'm totally like cutting off my face or whatever. So I'm using this for now, but I would love to get one that has a flip out screen. It's good for like Instagram pictures though, and like blog pictures of things if I'm actually taking the pictures. And then a lot of times for Instagram or Insta stories, like I just use my phone. This is the iPhone 8s, no, iPhone 8 Plus. Someone asked, you were exploring personal finance resources and I'm interested in what additional resources you found. She just started reading The Financial Diet. I started there. I think I'm going to make a separate video all about finances. I'm certainly not an expert. It'll just be more about my struggles. Here's a good one. What YouTuber has had the greatest impact on you? When I first started watching YouTube videos, there weren't any teacher YouTubers out there. So the people that I started watching like 5 or 6 years ago and that I still watch are like Estee Lalonde, Lily Pebbles, the Anna Edit, Claire Marshall, Whaley, Jen Eam from Head to Toe, all those like kind of lifestyle and beauty bloggers. And I still watch them. I still love them. I love like the quality of their content. And my purpose from the beginning was just to do more of like a lifestyle YouTube channel, but from the perspective of a teacher, you know, so we're not doing winged eyeliner every day and stilettos. But as I started making videos, I found that I really loved talking about my actual classroom and lessons and things like that. So if you go back to the very beginning of my videos, you kind of see a change where I start kind of gearing everything more towards education. What do you wish you knew as a first-year teacher? I think I have 2 videos on that, and they're both in the collaboration playlist. How do you read so many books and so quickly? I have a couple of tips on that. One, I was a history student, and you basically have to read like a book a week per class for 16 weeks. So you're reading like 3 books a week, you know, every week per semester. So that just taught me to read very quickly. Also, I rarely clean my house, so if you have a clean house, it's hard to read. And also, I never get to watch what I want to watch on TV. It's either Jensen watching Moana or my husband watching a basketball game, but I want to like be in there, I want to be in the room, so I just read while they do their thing. Oh, this one's funny. Would you want your son to go to your school eventually? My daughter wants to come to my middle school next year, and I want her there too, but her dad isn't sure. I had my dad as a teacher when I was in 7th grade. He was my 7th grade science teacher, and it's very handy because every time I forgot to like get something signed or forgot field trip money or whatever, I would just say I had to go to the bathroom and I'd run down and get it from him. My husband's dad also worked at his school, so we're kind of used to that, and I am planning on having Jensen come to my district and come to my school. I want to keep an eye on him and make sure he's doing what he's supposed to do. Would you ever leave California? Probably not. I've put too much work into getting my California credentials and all that you need to be a California teacher. But we do always say that maybe we'll take our like California retirement and then move somewhere where the cost of living is a lot cheaper and live like kings. How do you deal with coworkers who are negative, unsupportive, or just jaded? I also have a video on that with Smarty Style. I think it's in my collaborations playlist. But basically, I'm just very unaffected by other people. Like, sometimes this can work against me because I don't always take like other people's opinions and feelings into consideration. Sometimes I just don't care, but it is nice also because if there are coworkers who are unsupportive of me or rude to me, which there totally are, I just ignore them. I don't really mind. I don't feel like I have to be BFFs with everybody. I love that I have a couple teachers at my school that I'm pretty close with, but I don't assume that everyone is going to like me or that I'm going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. And it doesn't even really like hurt my feelings if someone doesn't like me. I understand that, you know, my personality doesn't jive with everyone's, and I don't think you're a bad person if you don't like me. It's cool. Oh my goodness. Okay, this one I just have to say. After a 16-month maternity leave, I will be returning to work to teach English and various other middle grade subjects. How'd you get 16 weeks, 16 months of maternity leave? That is amazing. Oh shit, so my question is how? My question is how. But yeah, it is tough to go back as a mom, especially like a new mom, and I do have a video about like our daily schedule. I should probably do an updated one, maybe more in like a little bit more of like a vlog style. It's tough, but mamas are so strong. You would be surprised at the mama strength. Like, you just make things work because you have to. and you will be surprised at your own strength. You just get things done. What countries would you like to visit during 2018 or in the next couple of years? Well, the first place that we want to visit is in the United States, but the Virgin Islands. We want to go see the statue of Rothschild Francis there. We've also never been to Hawaii. I want to go to Hawaii. I lived in England for 6 months. I lived in York, and I would love to take my husband there and show him around. I'd love to go back to France. I'd love to go back to Spain. Like, I want to go to all of the places that I went when I was like 18 and sort of appreciated it, but now that I know so much more about history and I could appreciate the places more, I'd like to revisit some of those countries. This one is from one of my students. If you could teach any other grade besides middle school, what would you choose? High school. I love teaching high school. I kind of miss it, but I love middle school too. And then I'd have to change my username like all over the place, so too much of a hassle. And then the last one is, how do you engage the unengageable learner, the student that has no desire to learn? I have struggled with that since the very beginning, and I still do. I mean, there are a ton of techniques just within your lesson planning and providing a variety of ways to consume information and show that you know information. You can get kids working in groups. We do community circles, which I think is somewhat helpful, but I think that's probably my biggest question as well. So I'm gonna leave it here and have you guys try and help us figure that out. That's always something that I'm trying to think about. I mean, by the time they get to middle and high school, sometimes I'm just tempted to say if you're not gonna learn, okay, I'm gonna present everything to you, but I can't pour information into your brain and I can't take your hand and make you do the work. So sometimes I get a little frustrated and get tempted to give up on them, but in my classroom, we start every day with a Lin-Manuel Miranda tweet that says, "Good morning, eyes up, hearts up, mind sharp, compassion on full blast." And the compassion on full blast part is for me because I need to remember to be compassionate towards my students and not assume that they don't want to learn or that they are being defiant or lazy or whatever, but try to get to the root of why they aren't participating in my amazing lesson. So that's something that I'm continuing to work on as a teacher. But what are your ideas? Let us know below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and go ahead and check out those playlists if there are particular kinds of videos that you prefer. And I'll see you over on Instagram. I'll have to do another one of these sometime soon and get to some of the questions that I didn't get to today. Have a great day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.